What is your perspective on how COVID-19 is impacting education funding? Please address it from the short term, current budget, and the longer term.
I, as well as Jay, are products of North Carolina's public education systems at the different levels. And I know, and we know what an education does to get you on the right path in life. And we've lived that experience. And our education systems have been models around the country, both community college and higher education especially. And there are levels that we ought to be at and ought to aspire to return to in many ways. So directly answering your question, in the short term, COVID-19 does not have any real impact on the education funding. We were able, through various mini budgets, first in April and then when we were in session in July, to fund the enrollment growth in the university and the community colleges. And we were able to increase funding for business systems modernization, some of the things that we had planned. Because we didn't adopt the full budget last year, we had not obligated all of the state's resources in the budgeting process. But that's the short run. I think that when we look at the full impact on the state's revenue of COVID-19, then down the road we see where there could be some serious challenges from a budget standpoint on our efforts in education, especially higher education. I think that we'll be able to deal with them because I think that if we look at historically the funding of education in the state, typically prior to 2010, we spent about 60% of our budget on education. That number has fallen, at least to a degree that concerns me, over the last 10 years. So our aspiration has to be to get back to that. And so as we look at the budget that will begin in 2021, that the 2021 legislature will adopt, the challenges will be to be very efficient with the state's revenue. I certainly am committed to not only increasing, but certainly continuing the funding for higher education. We'll have to make tough choices, but as we make them, education has to remain the top priority. And as we come out of the COVID-19 challenges, I think stronger than ever. We know that education is what's going to bring us out of it with the steam behind us.
Certainly for both of us and for our caucus, we are absolutely committed to the importance of public education and higher education, given our own personal experiences. I also believe, just as a opening statement, that our universities are really uniquely positioned as an organization to help address what I feel are like the three crises that we're dealing with right now: our public health crisis, our economic crisis, and our social crisis. And if you think about those challenges, we see the works of the universities every day, whether it's working on trying to find a vaccine or looking at ways to expand online training to reskill our workforce, or bringing people together to have conversations about how we can move our country forward, and having those tough conversations around race relations that we're confronted with right now. We are committed to doing everything we can to make sure that universities have that funding, because ultimately, I think as we get through this crisis, to my earlier point, that investment will have real return on dollars for our state in many different ways.